Before you call yourself lazy, just let me ask you something. When was the last time you genuinely switched off? Not distracted, not scrolling, not watching something to escape. Actually just switched off. Because I think a lot of men aren't lazy, they're just overloaded. And there's a difference. Lazy means you don't care. Exhausted means you've been carrying too much for too long. And most men won't admit they're tired. They'll say they're fine. They'll say they're just busy. They'll say they just need to get on with it. But underneath that, there's mental fatigue, constant thinking, constant calculating, constant low-level pressure, money, work, the future, responsibilities. You wake up and your brain is already running. Before your feet hit the floor, you're thinking about what needs to be done, what's coming up, what could go wrong, who's relying on you. And that constant mental load drains you quietly. Then, when it's time to push yourself, train harder, build something, improve, you feel flat, knackered. And you tell yourself you're lazy, but you're not lazy. You're just saturated. There's a difference between someone who avoids effort and someone who has no mental bandwidth left. I went through this myself so many times. I remember feeling frustrated with myself because I wasn't pushing like I used to. I'd sit down to work on something extra, a project, a goal, and I just couldn't focus. My energy wasn't there. And my first thought was, what's wrong with me? But when I actually looked at my days honestly, I realised I wasn't resting. I was just switching tasks. Work, stress, straight into responsibilities. Responsibilities, straight into phone scrolling. Phone scrolling into poor sleep. And then repeating it. That's not recovery. That's constant stimulation. And your brain never gets a chance to reset. When your brain never resets, motivation disappears. Not because you're weak, but because you're just overloaded. There's this quiet pressure a lot of men carry to provide, to be steady, to not complain, to not look fragile. So instead of saying, I'm just overwhelmed, you internalize it. You tighten up, you push through. But pushing through without recovery has a cost. It dulls your ambition. It dulls your clarity. It makes everything feel heavier than it actually is. You might notice it like this. You used to handle problems quickly. Now the small things irritate you. You used to move decisively. Now you overthink a lot. You used to start things easily. Now starting feels exhausting. That's not laziness. That's just cognitive fatigue. Your system is overloaded. And when your system's overloaded like that, your brain chooses survival over growth. It says, just try and conserve some energy. So you do the minimum required. You handle what must be handled and nothing more. From the outside, it looks like you've lost drive, but from the inside, you're just so drained. There's also something else. Modern life doesn't allow mental silence. You're always reachable, always connected, always consuming. Even when you relax, you're taking in information, scrolling, watching, comparing. And comparison is exhausting. Seeing everyone else's wins, everyone else's progress, it subtly tells your brain that you're behind. And that background noise drains you even further. Then you sit there wondering why you can't find the energy to improve your own situation. You're not lazy, you're just overstimulated and under-recovered. And here's the dangerous part. If you label yourself lazy for long enough, you start to believe it. You lower your expectations, you shrink your goals. You tell yourself, maybe I'm just not that driven person anymore. That's not the truth. The truth is, you haven't created space for your mind to reset. Mental strength isn't built through constant pressure. It's built through cycles. Pressure, recovery. Pressure, recovery. If all you do is apply pressure all the time, you eventually blunt yourself, and quite quickly as well. Think about training physically. If you trained hard every single day without rest, you'd burn out. You wouldn't get stronger. Your mind works exactly the same way. You need that deliberate recovery. And I don't mean distraction either. I mean silence, time without input, time without noise, time without proving anything. Then when clarity returns, that's when energy rebuilds. When I realised this, I didn't overhaul my life, I just introduced small resets. Walks without my phone, earlier nights, reducing pointless scrolling, actually finishing my work day instead of mentally dragging it into the evening. And within weeks, my sharpness improved. Not because I suddenly became more disciplined, because I wasn't mentally drowning anymore. You don't fix exhaustion with self-criticism. You fix it with space. If you constantly call yourself lazy, you create a shame. And that shame drains you even further. Instead, ask yourself, am I tired? Or am I avoiding effort? Be honest. Sometimes it's avoidance, but often it's overload. And overload requires adjustment, not aggression. You don't need to attack yourself. You need to just stabilize yourself. There's a strength in admitting that you're tired. It doesn't make you weak. It makes you aware. And awareness allows correction. If you felt that lately, if discipline feels harder than it used to, if your motivation feels inconsistent, pause before you judge yourself. You might not need more pressure. You might need better recovery. You might not need to become tougher. You might need to become just a bit clearer. And clarity comes when your mind isn't constantly buzzing. You're not lazy. You're just carrying more than you like to admit. The solution isn't to beat yourself up. It's to create some space so your strength can return. Because it will return. Energy rebuilds. Focus rebuilds. Drive rebuilds. But only if you stop drowning it in noise. So before you decide something's wrong with you, make sure you're not just mentally exhausted. There's a difference. And understanding that difference changes everything.